Here we are. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for to the conference team. I hope you can hear me well. I'm Anabelle Lacroix. I'm a PhD candidate at UNSW on medical lands, but I'm speaking from Paris today. So my work focuses on how curating public programs after hours can challenge institutional histories, temporalities, and infrastructures. In this talk, I explore the role of nighttime programming to produce critical and alternative time zones for communities and drafting curatorial methodologies for a public of the otherwise. I combine theoretical and practice-based research through the analysis of freedom of sleep, a project I curated during the COVID-19 pandemic over a year-long period, and primarily at night. This work pictured here, titled Roundtable by Mary Featherstone and Emily Flood, was in their 2018 exhibition Unfinished Business at ACA, where I was public programs curator at the time. And this will help me to introduce the current state of public programming and the gaps that I address in my research. The Roundtable is at once a collaborative artwork, a participatory space, and a diversity of programs that took place almost every day during the duration of the exhibition, hosting thousands of visitors. This work exemplifies how public programmings have shifted from being auxiliary to exhibitions to taking, I quote, center stage in cultural institutions. I refer to public programs as events that include talks, workshops, and performances for audiences of all ages, but mostly adults, as I'm not included here, school programs. These events include learning, as well as the delivery of artistic programs that contribute to the critical understanding of exhibitions. Public programs follow the educational turn that saw the development of pedagogical methods in museums with a range of new programming formats. For art historian Vanessa John Muller, public programs, I quote, illuminate an exhibition inherent system of references. In literature, public programs are part of what is called para-curatorial activity, para meaning besides or beyond, that helps to dissociate event-based exhibitions that use similar time-based formats. The Roundtable and public programs are here at the center of the exhibition space, renegotiating the traditional hierarchies between exhibition and program, as usually public programs at ACA would take place not in the exhibition itself, but in the foyer space. And this tension between exhibition and programs is subject to curatorial debates in the curatorial field, as for some, public programs pull away from the exhibition proper and its traditional scholarship towards entertainment considered uncritical or diluted, particularly with nighttime programs that have spread in institutions globally under what we call museum late, such as NGV or MCA late, or the branding after hours or after dark. However, there is very little understanding of this practice, especially at night. Museum lates have been the focus for studies in visitors' service purposes or to satisfy museum metrics, or seen as a marketing opportunity or an economic strategy, rather than a curatorial, rather than being studied within the curatorial field. And public programs suffer from this curatorial hierarchy, as well as being associated with the social time of the evening. As curator Emily Pethick notes, the borders between the curatorial, the artistic, the pedagogical, and the discursive have long been disintegrated by artists and curators alike, which I suggest is part of the difficulty for public programs to exist as its own curatorial field in practice. I propose that the understanding of public programming should rather spring from its specificity as an event-based practice at the intersection of the public and the institution. I ask, how can public programs create critical engagement with audiences and shift knowledge production and experience in relation to the exhibition and the institution? The timing of public program after hours and its time-based nature is critical to understanding this emerging practice. The neoliberal economy in 24/7 society has shifted our relationship to time, labor, and sleep and leisure, as well as the museum's own rhythms, with the extension of opening hours into the night, and at times even all night. Nighttime studies tell us that nighttime is not the mere replication of day, but has its own specificity, such as challenging the structures of daytime. As such, the night in the museum is a critical time zone towards the daytime exhibition. The life of an institution can be reduced to time slots and calendar blocks. As curator Matthew Copeland notes, exhibitions are also sets of dates, and public programs traditionally fall within those. Stepping out of this rhythm, I suggest, provides a critical potential towards institutional practices and its understanding of the public. The replication of the museum's opening hours from corporate business hours demonstrate the normative mechanisms at play and dominant temporalities across day and night times. Understanding public programming through time also situates the practice at the intersection of the broader politics of historical time in a museum and how time has been socially constructed. Museums are contemporaneous sites that deal with the past, present, and future with historical objects of various periods. For example, a curatorial display according to a notion of time, such as a chronological exhibition, reinstate colonial practices of linear time and exclusion, or what Michel Bastien calls, I quote, practices of communal boundary keeping, which has been addressed by public programming historically. I suggest then that curating public programs can be a way of intervening into time and its normative and exclusionary mechanism, opening ways for being together otherwise, meaning differently, as renewed possibility and as agency, which I will show through the project Freedom of Sleep. In 2020 and to 2021, I curated the project Freedom of Sleep at Fondation Fimenco in Paris, which explored insomnia and the idea of desynchronization between body and society to rethink life rhythms and reclaim nighttime in a 24-hour society defined by acceleration. During the pandemic, curfews and lockdowns limited this approach, but I have experimented with a new rhythm of curation of public programs through both online and in-person events when possible. I organized public programs before, during, and after the exhibition, and that was over a year-long period, which launched during White Night with roundtable discussions and performances that also had other evening programs and one overnight program, as well as a range of talks. In a reversal of sorts, the exhibition, which is listed here towards the top, is only one in a series of events that I consider a series of public programs that constitute the curatorial project. In the 6 months prior to the exhibition, an online publication was released as part of Liquid Architecture's journal titled Disclaimer. Initially, this was adapted from what would have been a physical program, but serves the initial purpose of engaging audiences with the content of the exhibition ahead of its opening to, I quote, eliminate its sets of references. Rather than an alternative to the physical presence, I see this online publication as a way for audiences to engage with the content in their own time, rather than a fixed time, and importantly, to provide flexibility when work and home spaces merged during lockdown. Humanities scholar Michel Bastien chose that time rather than space, and so that may be physical or digital space, plays an important role in community building and for understanding mechanisms of exclusion and difference. And this is particularly relevant here, considering the role of public programs in diversifying audiences as well as discourses. The night is thus an important space for sharing time and for community. which also recognizes the role of the social in the public program. I opened the exhibition during the night of 30th of May 2021 to a small group of writers of the local association Young Art Critics, who spent the night in the exhibition. The group produced critical responses to the exhibition that were published and accessible in the exhibition. This hour of night engaged with a specific community group, which also aimed at engaging with the underslept, the shift workers, the insomniacs, or the socially jet-lagged who are usually left out of daytime museum hours, if that would have been permitted outside of the pandemic. These are just a few images of this group of writers in the exhibition during the night. And here they finished their text at 7:14 in the morning. So to conclude, late night and all night programs might facilitate the gathering of different publics and alternative communities to emerge. With public programming, we can address different communities' needs at different times and with specific groups. I suggest curating public programs opens up possibilities for being together otherwise as a space of resistance in opposition to dominant temporalities in curatorial practice and their exclusion mechanisms in museum. I also follow academic Vinaxky Theodoki's understanding of the public of the otherwise, I quote, ever-changing, improvisational, with a constant juxtaposition of privileged bodies alongside those who are marginalized, without reiterating a language that is binary. So the public of the otherwise is politicized and unfixed. It is constantly being constituted in time. Rather than a para-curatorial practice, meaning besides the curatorial, I suggest that public programming is instead a critical practice in curating. And here I refer to museum scholar Janet Marston's approach that merges both the critical from institutional critique and practice from socially engaged artistic practice, which for her is a driver of ethical and organizational change in the museum. Here, the generational strategy for public programming in freedom of sleep, which was much beyond the exhibition with programs before and after, significantly changed the pace of engaging with audiences in regard to a short 1 month long exhibition. With evening programs over a year, I multiplied opportunities and repeat engagements for constituting publics and communities over time. This also includes a community of practice within artists and researchers that were included in both exhibitions and programs at different times over the year. This radically reconfigured institutional frameworks, which meant slowing down of traditional curatorial timeframes in relation to exhibition. So this public programming with freedom of sleep created alternative time zones to the traditional mode of knowledge delivery and experience in cultural institution. This approach was developed in relationship with the exhibition and as a core curatorial proposition. Public programming is here articulated as a curatorial method and a critical practice, reconsidering an engagement with audiences that is non-linear, that may be fragmentary, hosting audiences in and out of time. Thank you.